innocent people having their homes raided. We have to qualify that and look at various sources, but also officer safety and the safety of those people who could be at the premises when we go in. Quite often there are family members, pets, all sorts of things that we have to consider, both their welfare and officer safety. In fact, recently an officer was bitten by a dog, but that was one of these things we just hadn't predicted.
So it's a long journey though, from when you arrest people under drugs offences to actually securing a conviction. Do people underestimate how big a journey that is?
I think they do, yeah, definitely. There's a considerable amount of work in preparation for any operation, but going through the custody phase onto file preparation and the evidential preparation, so that you've got a solid case that's approved by our colleagues in CPS, and then to meet that threshold and to go to court. Yes, it certainly is quite a long and in-depth process.
You mentioned the Crown Prosecution Service, so is it possible that you could arrest people under misuse of drugs, you bring them back here, you prepare them, could they at some point jettison the whole case?
Yes, certainly that does happen, where we don't have, in their view, the evidential threshold, and we clearly respect and work to those guidelines.
I guess that could be frustrating.
Yes, certainly can be. However, in order for people to have a fair trial, the CPS are there to put forward cases with a fair, equal view.
And how do you balance working in a community, and Tilbury is the classic close-knit community, how can you balance, you have crime, you have enforcement to do, but you also have engagement. Is that a fine line, a fine balance in an area like Tilbury?
I think the public would be quite concerned that if the police weren't targeting those who are causing us, the community, the most pain. And it's my belief, from talking to members of the public, they like to see us taking positive action. It also sends a strong message to those who offend that we will be knocking at their doors, either gently or quite forcefully, but in the long run we will be taking action against them.
I guess from the another end of the scale, because you cover a large area, is it a bit frustrating that in a long hot summer, basic crime prevention things are, I was going to use the metal, going out the window, or rather your burglars are going in the window.
It can be frustrating, but that life balance, and the reality is we live in fear of crime, and the actuality is we're less likely to experience crime, yet our fear indicates that we're highly cautious. Having said this, there are occasions of lax-mindedness where people do pop to the shops and they've left their windows open or their doors open, or indeed they might be going in the garden and leaving the front window open. So yes, that is frustrating. But on the other hand, there is a fine balance between staying comfortable and enjoying life rather than living in the fear of crime.
When you have a community engagement day, say up in Corringham Town Centre for example, how can you judge its effectiveness?
By talking to the members of the public at the time. Any engagement at all is absolutely to put a value on it, well, I don't think you can. And to engage with random people that on a random spectrum of age groups, from the young to the elderly, that's a perfect opportunity to say, we're out here, we want to talk to you, tell us your problems. As to a measure of confidence or a measure of actual impact for such an event, that would be very hard to scale, unless you went back to those same people and said, how did you feel about that particular engagement? Although individual matters such as that, to measure them may be hard, but through continual engagement, through schools, through the local community, with businesses, etc., we can measure that through surveys of confidence, satisfaction, especially with victims of crime. And that all, although going back to your initial question, that particular initiative in Corringham that's part of the bigger picture.
The T-Fest in Grays, a child was injured, possible spinal injuries, and the Essex Air Ambulance came and had to land in an incredibly tight spot, and yet the whole performance, wrong word, the whole operation by the police, led by your Chief Inspector, was absolutely seamless. Do you think that's the type of thing people really underestimate in where the police, in tandem with the public and the council, operate?
Without doubt, with total respect for yourself, the media do quite often focus on things that will catch the public eye, and quite often poor service or mismanagement of an incident makes better reading than T-Fest went without incident. So you've highlighted a definite thing. The thought, the planning and the hours from all partner agencies involved in that do go unnoticed, but I think that's the same with most situations in life. The good does get it taken for granted, and it's when things go wrong that everybody's scrutinised.
But speaking of referring to scrutiny, it used to be in some police stations that when it came to, you'd stand in reception, there'd be the annual report, and you could see not only what crimes have been committed in each area, each force, division, etc., but also the detection rates, and very detailed, not just murder and burglaries, going down to things like underage attempting to buy alcohol, perjury, littering. You think that, because it's very difficult to find stats, do you think that when we talk about public accountability and scrutiny, do you think that should return?
Well, we're told from central government we're told by government that crime is going down, and certainly my statistics, and I have to compare mine year on date, show fewer crimes than last year. But that's a message that's a very difficult one for the public to accept, because they, on the whole, don't actually see a difference. They still hear friends being victims of crime if they're not victims of crime themselves. So it is a difficult message to get across, and I think publishing data in the front office is good. I don't know, I can't remember of that practice being the case within Essex, but I certainly would be a supporter of that. Not that I'm a big voice at all, however I certainly would, especially comparing year-on-year data, because as we discussed prior to this interview, there are many aspects of policing beyond just the detection rate. However, the amount of people that are brought to justice for offences, whether it's fly tipping or murder, is still highly relative. And to show how we're doing, how we're performing compared to year-on-year data, I think that's essential. We're a public service, and there shouldn't be a mystery around it.
Do people express their frustrations to you, final question, that they've seen a lot of good inspectors come and go at Tilbury, and from yourself, from Rachel Wood, and a series of acting inspectors, and they'd like to see you stay around a bit longer. Is that a frustration that you share?
I believe stability for teams. I've got 84 members of staff, including special constables, and stability in any job, whenever I've had a manager or a boss, I've liked that stability, continuity, but you have to balance that with career progression or need in other areas in the force. I think the benefits for having somebody stay in the same place are massive, around being that, to use that dangerous word, but familiar base, but also if that person's the right person for the job. But I also believe change can be very good. A new inspector to an area such as Tilbury can bring with it, be like a new broom, and it can bring change, just different mindsets. So I have no plans to move, and I'm certainly enjoying quite a challenging position. But when I do, then if you ask me the same question again.